Welcome everybody, and I know we may still have a few more people trickling in, but thank you for choosing to attend our restorative practices, promoting social emotional wellness. It's a this session is only 50 minutes, so we're going to kind of try to be realistic in what we can accomplish. Well, really, what I'm trying to provide is an overview for us to go into real depth into this training. I think we'd have to have definitely a few hours, but that's fine. I think it's really, we'll get the important, I guess, important messages will come through here. And you have access to this PowerPoint. I believe I did it correctly. I went ahead and put it as an attachment in this session. And so, and then you have on the first slide, you have my email address. And if you have any questions, comments, or let's say you wanted additional training on this, on restorative practices, please contact me and I will direct you. We have some throughout the rest of this year, we will have monthly free, virtual trainings. So we've been having them really now since since COVID hit. But we're actually pretty good at it now. So I want to welcome you and let you know that I will serve as a resource to you. Don't think that it's limited to just this 50 minutes. We, just know that that's part of my job at the County Office of Education, and I'm happy to do it. It's something I actually enjoy doing. So I appreciate Lisa Flowers and all of the team, the expanded learning team, inviting me to do this, and I hope it'll be useful to you. So really what we're trying to do is increase knowledge of how to use restorative practices to develop more positive relationships and increase understanding how the restorative practices can help to decrease stereotypes and promote social emotional wellness. So hopefully we can accomplish that in this short time period. Now, we typically, and I know some of you may have gone to a mindfulness session, it's definitely something that we're promoting for all educators. And by the way, I definitely include in all expanded learning staff as educators. I certainly don't limit educators to those people just with a certificated teaching credential. I know personally that that many people have helped to teach my children, right? I had them in expanded learning, several years. Now they're, one's in the Navy and one's becoming a school psychologist, and it's a great thing. But I recognize that you and kind of people like yourselves helped to raise my children. And when I say help to raise them, I mean, you help to instill in them kind of positive viewpoints. You help to develop skills in them, life skills, obviously academic skills when you've helped them in tutoring and things, but also just learning all kinds of different things. And one of the things, that many people in expanded learning have done well, because I've witnessed it and I've witnessed the positive impact, is that many people have been doing restorative practices and expanded learning for years. Maybe they didn't call it that, but every time, for example, with my children, every time they greeted my children with open arms and accepted them for who they were, and they made them feel comfortable, confident, accepted, they helped them have a sense of belonging, a sense of importance. To me, absolutely 100%, those people were doing restorative practices for my children. And I see the benefit of it. I've seen it over the years. So first of all, I want to thank you for your service, because I think it's so important. I know when you've experienced something over years, you really can say if it's truly a benefit. And I can say 100% has been one of the biggest benefits of my life as a parent in my kids' lives. So what we say is this: every educator, which obviously includes all expanded learning staff, really should understand that when we are connected to a school community and we're doing service for children and families, I think of it as sacred ground, meaning that it's very meaningful work that instills values into these human beings that are in connection with you in a way that is life-giving. And for many, it's healing, right? It's healing. It's transformative. So I say this: if we're going to be, I guess, at our best self when we go to work, and that's what I try to do, by the way, I try to be at my best self for others, then I need to develop some form of mindfulness so that when I'm having these interactions with these young people and with the families and my colleagues, I'm actually interacting in a way that I actually want to, rather than allowing buttons to be pushed and ego to come out and defensiveness and for me to act in such a way that I begin to teach what I don't want to teach. You know, when if I become angry and I start to make people feel devalued and demeaned, well, I'm obviously not doing the job that I want to do. My job is to help to restore people, restore their sense of dignity as human beings, their sense of belonging, their sense of importance in this school community. So I take this very seriously. And what I want to do with you, if you don't mind, maybe take just about a minute, and we're going to just focus on our breathing. I have I think a beautiful slide up here that's very peaceful. And if you just kind of take some intentional breaths, whatever's comfortable to you, but just what I say is that we take some nurturing breaths, because it's this oxygen that we breathe in that nurtures our body and our mind. Right? So we can't see it, but we can feel it in our lungs. So when our lungs expand, they're helping to nurture our blood, our body, our mind. So we take those deep breaths, right? Just to fill ourselves with that goodness. And then, but we also, as we're taking these deep breaths, we also are exhaling. So we say, exhale out anything that you're carrying today that might be weighing you down in some ways. Might be some anxiety or stress or, exhaustion or tiredness, or just kind of release it out through your breath. And then continue to breathe in that nurturing oxygen. And if you look at this photo that's up here, you can see that it's actually the trees around us, wherever we live, that are helping to develop the oxygen that we breathe in. Right? So we kind of take some breaths with gratitude, right? As we think of these trees that are kind of working for us, helping to nurture us. And we know that we have an interdependent relationship with nature. And not only do we want to be restorative with the human beings around us, but we also want to be restorative with the earth, with nature, and to always treat it with the utmost respect and gratitude. For we depend on nature for our very lives, right? So we just take a couple of nice deep breaths with gratitude, and that's it. So what we do is, I really try to encourage, and I know that many of the people that I have had relationships with in the expanded learning programs throughout the county, they're younger, and I'm older, but I really feel like we want these younger adults in expanded learning to also begin to teach our young people about the power of just mindfulness, being intentional, because young people need to develop this skill as well. because when they're going to be making decisions that are going to impact their lives, which they do every day, by the way, in their relationships, they could really benefit from taking a few breaths, right? And thinking, what do I want to teach in this interaction or in this decision? Because young people are teachers as well. And we might, if we, we come in as educators, but we also have to know this, as expanded learning staff and other educators, we also should know that we come in as students and learners. So we do it simultaneously, and we do that. We always come into a school campus with humility. So one of the things that we do, and this is just an example of a list of the community agreements that we, that we might use in a meeting, for example. So if we're having a meeting with just our staff, or a community meeting where maybe some of the parents are being involved, or if you're doing something, obviously, if you're running a program with students, you want to come up with agreements. Now, the best way to do that in the restorative mindset is do it with them, right? Everything is about doing with as much as possible. So we say, rather than just creating a list the way I brought in today, if we had more time, I typically would be asking you, what helps you feel safer and more valued in our program? And you might say one of the things on here, right? Well, when people listen with their open mind, or they're present to me, or they accept me where I am today, or they're real, they keep it real, as the kids would say, right? They're authentic in their sharing. They give me dignity and honor, and they keep things confidential. Like, obviously, when there's a mandated reporter situation, we always go out of that confidentiality to bring in help, of course. And then we ask people, just take care of your own needs, even during this session, whatever your needs are. So one of the things that we like to do is we say, if I develop these community agreements with the students that I serve, one of the things that's really important is this: we develop them, and then we ask people, would you agree? Do you agree to do your best to follow these? Now, if you're in a face-to-face, I usually ask for like a thumbs up, and if you're in if you're in a virtual format, you can also ask for like the thumbs up reaction. You have a reaction button. You can kind of put the thumbs up. I'm not sure if you all have that or not. And if you ask people to put their cameras on for just a minute, because I know a lot of kids don't like to have their cameras on, but if you ask them for a moment, can you just please put your camera on and just show me your thumbs up? I know these are non-verbal ways of kind of getting an agreement. And the key is this: I always encourage people, restorative practitioners like yourselves, I like to say this: you put your thumbs up too and say, I also agree to follow these. This is not just for me to hold you accountable. It's also for you to hold me accountable, and for you to hold each other accountable, not in a mean way, because we hold each other accountable with kindness. But there may come a day where somebody says to you, hey, Mr. So-and-so, or hey, Miss So-and-so, I really feel like, you're not listening with an open mind. Maybe a comment that you made after somebody, gave their idea, and it may have come out as a sarcastic, joking remark, but it may have been a trigger for somebody. And they say, that doesn't sound to me like you're listening with an open mind. In that moment, you have an opportunity to teach something, right? You can either go the old school route and say, well, listen, I'm definitely listening, and my mind is always open. And you can kind of use that kind of defensive response, which basically what you taught, not only that child that you're responding to, but every other child that's listening, is this is not a truly authentic, safe place. Because if you bring up kind of challenging ideas, you're going to be pushed down and oppressed. And I know that's not what any of us intend to do, but sometimes when we react like that, that's what it does. So what we say is we're going to try to be intentional. That's why we're trying to be mindful. We're trying to be consistent and strategic in our teaching. And so if a child was to say that, Mr. Seha, I feel like, you weren't really listening with an open mind the way you said you would. And then I would say, hey, my first response should be this, take a breath. And then, thank you for being so caring for our community and so courageous to be able to hold me accountable. I'm a human being and I make mistakes. So I want to say, first of all, I apologize to you. And then I also apologize to all the other children around. And I want you to know, I truly mean that. I want, your forgiveness. And I want you to know this, I will try my best in the future to have that open mind and to listen well. Because what you've now taught is that you are accountable to this agreement and that you are living it, right? You're not just posting it up there to hold them accountable. And that's very, very important lesson for children on the use of authority and power. So just think about how you might be able to use your community agreements to teach, right? First, by gathering their thoughts. And when I type up things and the kids see their own thoughts on the screen or on the paper, it's like, oh, they see that I honor their thoughts. And then when we actually start holding each other accountable and we notice, we begin to teach people how to hold each other accountable with kindness. They may come from a home where that's never done. Anytime someone is being held accountable at some of their homes, it's done with yelling and demeaning, devaluing kind of treatment. So these are really important lessons. Now, when we look at these photos, there's something that it teaches us about relationship. And we can learn a lot from nature, from animals, from trees. And if you look, oftentimes in our Western culture that we live in, obviously, we're very kind of individualistic, right? There's a saying from back in the day that says, pull yourself up by your own bootstraps. Like, that's part of our culture. It's like, you got to just make it on your own. You got to be strong. You got to do all this. But in nature, what they say is we need to come together in community, that we actually need each other. And honestly, human beings need to come back together. We need to restore some of what we call the ancient wisdom, that is the need for relationship and community. And I think that the penguins in this photo do a great job of that. They live in an extremely harsh environment, cold, and yet they've come together as a community to huddle because they know that they can help each other survive and even thrive in that harsh environment. And if you notice, they take turns. The ones in the center, if you look at them, they've been enjoying some of that warmth. And the ones on the outside are taking the brunt in service of the community. But the ones in the center are already coming to the outside so they can have their turn to serve the community. So it's one of serving and being served. And then the ones on the outside start to move in to enjoy the warmth. And then if you look at the redwoods, if you've never been walking in the redwoods, I would really encourage you to do that someday. You will sense such a majesty among these trees. They're old, tall, strong, beautiful trees, and they almost like exude a peace. And so, but if you notice, as strong as they are, and many of them live past 100 years, they reach out to each other within their root system. They reach out and they intertwine their root system because that provides them, by the way, they communicate with each other. They help to nurture each other in difficult times. They heal each other. And they also stabilize each other, especially when there's big storms, because they're so tall, they could be knocked down by those, strong winds. But because at their foundation, they're so linked together, they're actually able to go through difficult times. And what we say is this is what our Western society needs: more coming together, where we begin to see that we need each other, and that we begin to recognize our commonalities with each other as human beings, instead of what we tend to do is stereotype each other. When we don't come together and listen to each other, what we do is we end up starting to label each other, and we actually dehumanize each other through our stereotypes, and we begin to divide even more. And what we say is this: we need to intentionally, strategically, and consistently facilitate processes where our young people begin to learn the need to come together, and to see that they are connected. And there's a saying in indigenous culture, in the Mayan culture, that says in Lakesh. And it's a greeting in Mayan culture. And really what that means is, you are the other me, right? So it would be something, if I was to see Lisa, for example, I would say, hey, Lisa, in Lakesh. And what I'm doing is I'm reminding her, I recognize that we are one as human beings, as community members, as people serving in expanded learning, that we have the same kind of spirit and mentality of service and of love for our community. And she responds back to me that same kind of thing, like we keep reminding each other, hey, we're family, we're one. So what we say is, restorative practices is indigenous based, meaning it comes from indigenous communities from throughout the world. And those of you who have maybe either locally or in other places, if you've visited indigenous communities, especially when they do their meetings, or they do celebrations, you oftentimes see them form a circle, right? And that circle is really important in our restorative practices that we've learned from them, because that's a way that we can honor the community, that we are one, that it's not like I'm the king above everybody else. It's like we're one, and we're all kind of equal in some ways, even though we're different. And so we say we want to value each member of the community. We want even the young people to know you're an important member of this community, and that we're responsible to each other, and we're accountable to each other. So I want to develop a program, for example, in expanded learning or anywhere in a school, where the students begin to hold each other accountable with kindness. But what I realize is that they need to learn that. And we adults need to teach that. And we need to reteach. We need to practice through role plays. If we truly want people to develop skills, that's our responsibility, is to create kind of space for them to practice these skills. And if we don't practice those skills with them and teach and encourage, we literally will not create space for them to develop their capacity to do what we're talking about today. So one thing that we're going to do is just, some of you may have already done this type of thing, but we really do encourage people to do what we call a check-in. And you can do this in both the virtual format, like we're going to do today, but definitely I've done this hundreds of times in person, in small circles, medium circles, large circles. I've done it even with like 80 to 100 staff in a school. So, but today we're just going to do it like this. We're going to ask you to check in, and we're going to say, try to be authentic, for example, and we're going to ask you to choose a number from 1 to 10 that expresses how you're feeling today. And then you can just type that in the chat, and you can put like a one sentence thing. And like, I might say something like this today. I might say, and this would be true for me, I'm going to check in as a 9, which was like 1 meaning you feel horrible. 10 is like you're feeling awesome. And I'm going to say a 9 because today my daughter turns 25, and I got to talk to her this morning. She lives in Washington, D.C., and we just have such a great relationship now. We've really had to go through some stormy times when she was a teenager, but it's like we've just come together in such a beautiful way. And I see that she really is a wonderful human being. And honestly, I'm going to say this with gratitude. It's expanded learning staff that helped her become who she is today. I'm serious. I'm very real about that. So that's how I would check in. But I'm going to ask you to go ahead and maybe put a number and a one sentence explanation of why you chose that number, if you would. And then what I'm going to do is I am going to try to see kind of what's happening in our chat. And thank you, Mrs. Cass. You're happy and ready for the day. So you're a 9. And Carlos says, I'm cold, but drinking hot chocolate. Great. Thank you, Carlos. And then we have Marissa says she's a 9, feel great, but still tired from the time change. Thank you for reminding us of that. I think a lot of us are experiencing that, Marissa. And then I think it's Lisa probably that's saying she's a 9, feeling good with the conference, going well, but a little tired. And by the way, anyone who's ever organized conferences like I have several, I know the staff deserve a ton of our gratitude, because believe me, the sacrifices that they've made over these past days in organizing and dealing with everything is immense. Okay, I can tell you that from experience. But Edith says 9, blessed to be here with such a great team. Thank you. And then Ricardo says 8, feeling a little tired, but getting the day started. Good. I think it's Christian. 7, feel good, but a little sluggish from the time change. So it sounds, see how we're starting to find commonalities, right? With the time change and the challenges that brings. Lexi says 8, happy to be at work with my kids, but tired and overwhelmed with school, ready for spring break. And Lexi, I want you to tell you, I spoke to my daughter today, and she just finished her last final that she turned in last night, and she's beginning her spring break. So I could hear in her the relief, and I know you need that, because people that are working and going to school, you guys work so hard. Cynthia says 8, I'm tired, but feel great about what's going on around today. Thank you, Cynthia. And then Patricia says 7, slowly getting to a 9 or 10. So you see that hope that she says, and then time change has not been fun. And so Virginia says 7. Peter says 7, tired and cold, but so glad to be here. Good. And there you go. You see how Peter's being very authentic, tired and cold, but happy to be here. And that's a real important lesson for all of us. April, 7 and craving coffee. I get it, April. I had my couple of cups this morning. It really helped me. So, okay. So that is a way that is a quick way that you can do a check-in. Now, let's say somebody was checking in, and they were checking in as a 2. And they said, let's just as an example, April, I'm going to use an example. If you were going to say something like, if you were one of the students and you were checking in as a 2, and you said, I'm pissed off today, like kids will say, honestly, my response is really, really an important part of what I want to teach. First of all, I say to April, thank you for being so authentic and making it safe for all of us to keep it real. And I want to say thank you for being vulnerable and honest with us in saying, that you're feeling pretty bad and you're feeling angry today. And I want you to know that I want to be here and walk with you today. And I know that all of our colleagues here, our peers, will probably want to help you as well. That you're not alone, April. That in this group of our, expanded learning program, I want you to know we have a lot of caring people. So when you come here, even if you're feeling really angry or anxious or depressed or sad or anything, you can always come to us as the staff, and we will do everything that we can to make you feel that this is your place. This is a place where you are welcome and you're honored. And you see what I'm trying to do is, as I'm speaking to April, if it's appropriate, I'm going to do it out loud so that everybody hears the message and they hear the continuous message through everything. Wherever you are today, we embrace you. We accept you wherever you are. Even if you become angry with us, we're still going to accept you and help you work through it. That helps that young person restore in relationship with the community, and they start to feel much, much safer. And when you feel safer, that enhances your social emotional wellness. As most of you already know, when you feel safe in a relationship, you feel able to be your true self. And so that's kind of the key of the connection between restorative practices, creating that safe environment where we honor and value people wherever they are, and the social emotional development that is needed. So just yeah, thank you, Virginia. I'm glad that was answered. Okay, so let's kind of go on. I'm going to see if I can figure out how to do this again. Let's see, there it is. Okay, here we go. And that gray thing will go away in a minute. So what I want to do is I want to ask Lisa, you can see the participants, but would you just kind of choose one of the participants and ask them to read this out loud for us? Is that okay?
Sure.
Thank you.
How about Miss Cass? Can I get you to read this out loud for us?
Hello. Hi, this is not Miss Cass. This is Hector. Sorry about that.
Okay.
No worries. Hi, Hector.
Hi, I'm just using my Miss Cass's computer. Hello. So yeah. Okay, so I'll start. Human beings are happier, more cooperative, and productive, and more likely to make positive changes in their behavior when those in position of authority to do things with them, rather than to them or for them.
Thank you, Hector.
You're
And
welcome.
Hector, can I ask you, have you ever had a person in authority, either at a job or maybe they were a teacher or somebody in authority, make you feel like they were really doing it with you rather than to you?
Yes, of course I had. Actually, I'm in. I want to say that I'm in the sound. I'm in the sound ministry at my church.
Yes.
So when I started, I didn't know anything about, like, I didn't know a thing. And I have this friend of mine. His name is Steven. He walked me through it. You know, he took his time. He put me on the side, and he like taught me like the different cables. You know, their names, how we connect the speakers, how we connect the monitors, how we turn on the house speakers. You know, how we turn on the board, and he like walked me through it. And thanks to that, you know, I was working with him, but he was working with me, you know, and we were kind of like doing it together as a team. So I felt that he was kind of like doing it, but also I was kind of like doing it too at the same time. So he kind of helped me grow, and he didn't like make me feel that I was like doing all the work.
Thank you, Hector. That is, like, I would say, a perfect example of somebody who was more experienced and authority, kind of, in your case, who really taught you and walked with you and kind of gave you almost like on the job training type of to build your capacity. Now, you know, sometimes I think of like Hector's example, and I would say, what would Hector have felt like if that person would have just said, okay, go and do that, go do the boards and the connections and the wires and everything else, and without actually providing him the support. Obviously, that would have been very, very, it would have caused Hector a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety, and he would not have felt like he feels in the sound ministry and the you know, that he's doing at his church, where he feels valued, he feels important, he feels honored, right? Because this person in authority understood what Hector needed to achieve that high level of service. And that's what we say in restorative practices. We're going to work with each other and with the students to help them so that they're truly given the support the way Hector was to achieve the high level of standards that we may have in our program. That's a thank you, Hector.
You're welcome.
So when we look at this social discipline window, when if you look at it, you see they call it the social discipline window because it has these four like window panes, right? Looks like a window. And you see the two, the with, the not, and the for, which is, you know, kind of like indicative of the punitive, the restorative, the neglectful, and the permissive. Now, the way it works is the higher you go up on this graphic, it means the higher the control or the higher the standard, the higher the discipline that you're holding. But, and also the further you go to the right, when you look at this, this graphic, the further you go to the right, as you see on the arrow on the bottom, it means the higher the level of support, the encouragement, the nurturing that you're providing. So one of the things that we've noticed is that in schools, a lot of people have been taught in what we call the punitive paradigm, meaning they were told you have to do this, this, and this, and if you do it well, we'll reward you with good grades, and we'll, you know, blah blah blah. And if you don't achieve that standard, we're going to punish you with bad grades. We're gonna kind of do what we call that punitive. We're going to use grades. We sometimes will use other forms of punishment, like detentions and isolation, or taking away things from you. What we have found is that that has not worked well. And it is actually, in some cases, like some different racial groups, we have found through data, have been more punished than other groups, right? We've noticed that this punitive paradigm has been used more with them, which is obviously what we call a social justice issue. Now, if you look over on the bottom part of this quadrant and you go all the way to the right, you see there's a for or permissive. And restorative practices is not that. It's not, oh, I'm just letting the kids do whatever they want, and there's no accountability, and it's kind of chaotic, and you know, that's not restorative practices. That's called the permissive paradigm. And that also is not restorative. It's not helpful. What we say is we want to do both. We want to have a high level of standard, but we want to provide the high level of support so that the students can reach that standard, exactly like Hector taught us, where he, you know, goes into the sound ministry there, and what happens? This person works with him and provides him the support. If you notice what happened to Hector, even though his person of authority maybe wanted him to be at the high standard where he could probably function the way he's functioning now, when he came into that, he was here. He was not here, he was here. So that person in that restorative mindset embraced Hector where he was. He assessed the needs that Hector needed, and then he provided him training and support and encouragement so that Hector could now serve at a very high level. That is the restorative, what we call paradigm. That's what we're supposed to do with all people, including even at home. So at home, if you have either children or siblings or parents and everybody's at different levels, what we try to say is we're going to embrace them where they are, and we're going to try to help and support them so that they can also improve and achieve at their highest level. We don't just say, here it is, here's the standard, you better reach this, or here's your punishment. That's not restorative. All right, so one of the things that we notice is many of our kids are coming into our programs and our schools with different issues that have happened to them, different, what we call, could be traumas, where, for example, a student who has not felt safe at home or has not felt safe maybe in their community, maybe they've been bullied, maybe all these kinds of things, those are kind of what we call traumas that then students bring into our program. And then what happens is different things will happen, and it'll be like a button or a trigger where they will go into what we call the compass of shame. And what we say is that a lot of times what we'll see are these different types of behavior where they will withdraw, they'll avoid us. You know, they might be there even in a meeting with us, but they're really not fully there. You can always tell when a child kind of shuts down, that's the withdrawal. And then the avoidance is maybe they just don't show up for a few days, or they ditch and they do things like that. Or sometimes we even say they can start using substances and alcohol, drugs to try to mask the pain that they're feeling, because all of these people are feeling a sense of pain and uncomfortable feeling. Some people will actually go on the attack of others. They'll start blaming others. They'll start even blaming you. And some will attack themselves. So those people who are more experienced in expanded learning have probably seen a number of these parts of the compass of shame in some of your students. You may have even seen this in staff, right? Where you begin to see some of these reactions to what we call shame, or just that uncomfortable feeling, not knowing what to do with it. So I'm going to ask you to think about this. When you're feeling kind of, let's say you're going through some difficulty. Maybe you're in a conflict. Maybe you're feeling that you were not respected, that you were disrespected, or you felt demeaned or devalued. And you start to feel like you're going into one of these, right? One of these withdrawal, avoidance, attack self, attack others. What helps you to come through that difficult time to be able to come into a better, healthier mentality, kind of a healthier mental wellness place where you can start to think more clearly? So I want to ask you that, like, what's one thing that a trusted person that you would go to, like a friend or somebody you trust, what's one thing that they can do for you? And then Lisa, if you don't mind, maybe just if they can just put that in the chat. One thing that somebody can do for you to help you to get through that difficult time. And then let's just see, I'm going to do this so I can actually see the chat. I just realized I do need to see this. And yes, these slides are shared with you. I put them into, I guess every presenter can just share the slides in a certain part of this. But if you don't mind, what's one thing that another person can do for you when you're going through one of those difficult times? What's the best thing that they can do for you to get you through to a healthier place? And if you don't mind putting that, a simple word of encouragement. Thank you, Carlos. Listen and give advice, Julia says. And if you notice how listen is really big, right? Offer a different perspective, Ricardo says. But look at how Erica is. He is third person, and so does Christian says, listen. So we've had 4 people say that. Help me talk it out. So Patricia, in some ways, is inferring, listen to me. Virginia says, listen without judgment. And isn't that true, everybody? Reach out to me, April says. Wow, I really, really, really like that, April. Thank you for reminding us that we need to reach out. Just a friend being there for me, presenting me with some kind of simple mental escape, a walk, getting coffee, talking, listening. Thank you very much for that, Lexi. And then Marissa says, help me see how things happen the way it happened. Great, Marissa, thank you. And give their presence, Jose says. So, okay, so these are excellent, excellent answers, by the way. Thank you for that. And so what I want to show you is this is kind of like, you know, how can we respond to shame with empathy? And I apologize about the gray section up there. I'll try to get rid of that for a moment because I know we don't have here it comes like that. Okay, but look at the first thing it says, and that's the thing that you all said the most. Listen to what they have to say. And some of you said, be present with them without trying to problem solve it. And some of you said, you know, be non-judgmental. Reflect on what has caused the shame feeling. Acknowledge their feelings. Encourage them to talk about their experience. Remind them to reach out to someone they trust and to teach to guide themselves as they would guide someone they love. Meaning, if you were meeting with somebody, you might even ask them, what advice would you give somebody that you really care about if they were in a similar situation to you? Sometimes it helps people kind of get out of their own stuff and they think, well, I would tell them to do this. And you can say, that's exactly right. That, you know, that's great advice, right? So this is, you know, pretty much what, when, just so you know, I also left you this within the slides is a video that I would really like you to watch, but I know we don't have the kind of time to watch it just right now. But if you click on where it says every opportunity right here on the top, there's it'll guide you to a video, and it's a video that's on YouTube. And I really think it would be important for you to watch this because it demonstrates how every human interaction is an opportunity to teach the right thing, right? That people are valuable, that we honor them, that they're important to us. But we have to be mindful to do that, right? And but every opportunity, we want to take advantage of it to pour in goodness to these young people. And I think this video does a really good job of it. So if you don't mind, at some point, you can download all of this, and you can check it out and see how it helps you. And then as we're ending, I was going to say, you know, maybe if you have a chance, just to type one sentence in the chat feature of one idea that may have come to mind for you, that you will commit to implementing. And you probably are already doing a lot of this work, but what's one thing that has come to mind for you when you think about this work that you're committed to doing or even committed to improving on? And thank you, Cynthia. And then you have the evaluation as we're ending right now. If you can see the evaluation in the chat, if you don't mind, as soon as you put your comment in there, go ahead and please fill out that evaluation because I know you're going to have another session. So I want to just say thank you to everybody. Appreciate all of your authenticity, that you were present. And I could just, you know, even though I know we're in this virtual format, I could feel your connection to me and to this information, that you really kind of took it seriously. That just means a lot to me. So thank you. And then so group accordance, showing gratitude when a student shares. Beautiful. Simply implementing, taking a few seconds to have students breathe and slow down for those moments. Beautiful. Give quality time to the staff that works around me as well as the students. Wow, I love that, Julia. Thank you. That she's saying this staff and the colleagues are important human beings as well. And Lexi says to make sure that I'm taking the time to check in with every student at different times. I forgot how important check-ins are and how much I enjoy them. Thank you very much, Lexi. And then Virginia, Virginia says, that's good, Julia, thank you. And then Ricardo, community guidelines, accountability for me and my students. So thank you for helping me by just reading what you're willing to try to improve on and strengthen. It makes a big difference to me. And then Carlos says, become aware of my breathing and practice relaxing breathing. Thank you, Carlos. That's fantastic to hear that. And then just know that when you do the evaluation, it also does enter you into the daily raffle drawing. So might be a really good idea to just fill that out quickly and get your name in there. Grishan says, let's see, being able to address punitive practices with my staff and educating them on how these practices have become a social justice problem. Wow, that's beautiful. Thank you, Grishan. That's beautiful. It is a social justice issue. And so when we bring in these restorative practices, we're creating opportunities for healing and restoring hope, restoring sense of belonging, and kind of restoring social justice. So I thank you, everybody, for just being so honestly wonderful during this time. I appreciate Lisa's help with everything she's doing for this conference and all of the expanded learning staff. We really appreciate all of you. And by the way, thank you for your kind comments. I appreciate them. Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate your guys' encouragement. We'll in Lakesh to all of you as you move on to your next sessions. Just wonderful to have been here with you.